Hey guys, and welcome to my weekly property market update. I'm Alegre-Wood, and this is the 1st of December 2008. Now you're probably wondering why I'm wearing a Santa Claus hat. I actually do it right the way through December, keep the Christmas cheer going. And I guess the first article, the articles we're going to be running through today, the first one is the YPC Christmas party, which you're all invited along to. Also, the Bank of England considering further rate cuts, and they were considering them in the last meeting, but we'll talk more about that. Repossession relief for some homeowners, and obviously mortgage fraud investigations continue. House prices falling eases. Okay, and then finally, the general interest one is which lender uses which credit agencies, which might be useful to you if you're applying for some credit cards or something like that. But we'll take you through that. Fantastic. Okay, so let's begin. Right, so first of all, YPC Christmas party. If you come to the front page of their home site and click on here, it's going to take you through. The internet comes through there. We've got 10 places left, so we've got about 50 already signed up, and so another 10 or so I'm sure we can stretch a little bit, but yeah, we've got 4 hours of drinks and food, and it'll generally be a good time to meet other clients. It was a great day last year, or great night last year I should say. That's on Friday the 5th of December, so that's this Friday coming up. Okay, so all you need to do is come to the website, and then down here you can actually sign up for that event. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. So, Bank of England weighs rate cuts at 2%. Okay, the bottom line is the Monetary Policy Committee meeting notes from last thing, they actually considered an even bigger drop than the 1.5%, but they felt it might be a bit too much of a shock. So, it looks like they could be considering another drop, and in fact down to 2%, which is another percent, which may or may not happen before Christmas, but potentially it could happen before Christmas, so that could be good news for all of us on the way. I know certainly I'm on quite a few trackers and quite a few variables, and I've had quite an increase or quite a decrease in my mortgage payments, so it's been fantastic. Alright, so that's the first one. That was an article in the Times, but it's pretty much across all the news at the moment. Now, if you're wondering who the Bank of England are, if you go to the bankofengland.co.uk website, and you can find everything. So, current bank rate, current inflation target. You can find a whole range of things. Now, I'm actually signed up to this website, and I get a whole range of things from Monetary Policy Committee notes through to the video when they do the press conference, you name it. All the bits and pieces, financial data, as it happens, I get straight to my email, and I can link through to the website and get the various bits of information. So it's quite a good website, and it just gives you a quick look at what the things, when the next date's due. So you can see 4th of December, that's this Thursday, we may have that rate cut that we were talking about, which could be fantastic. Okay, so I just want to talk about the struggling families given 6 months reprieve as RBS delays repossessions. You may not have heard, but the government took 58% majority shareholding or stake in RBS, which owns, of course, NatWest. So that's big news. Now, the government's been very full on about making sure that lenders pass on the rate cuts, and also that they don't initiate repossession action too prematurely. Realistically, the important thing if you're in financial problems is to actually communicate, because if you want your place repossessed in the fastest possible time, just ignore the payments, ignore all the letters, and you'll see how quickly it gets repossessed. But realistically, there's provisions in the Consumer Credit Code that allow for you, a lot of time and a lot of leeway if you're facing hardship. Okay, so it's important not to stick your head in the sand, and that advice goes for anything to do with finances. Okay, anytime you put your head in the sand, well, I've always said that if you stick your head in the sand, you're likely to get a kick up the arse. So you really don't want to do that. Get there, get early, and work something out with them. All right, so lenders given fairness deadline. The City Watchdog has threatened lenders with fines if they fail to give fair treatment to customers when dealing with arrears. Okay, so not only is the government onto it, but the FSA, which is the Financial Services Authority. What they don't want is people prematurely being kicked out of their homes, because that just creates all sorts of problems. If there's a way around it that we can, they can negotiate, whereas drop the payments or something like that, they'd much rather do that. As I've always said, lenders are in the business of lending money, not in repossessing homes. It's a last straw for them. They don't really want to do it, but hey, if you don't communicate with them, then sure enough they're going to jump straight onto it, because it's their asset, their balance sheet, and their shareholders are going to worry about. Okay, are mortgages safe as houses? So this is an article about, it's on the BBC News website, about mortgage fraud. Phil Robinson, Director of Financial Crime and Intelligence at the FSA, says mortgage fraud is serious and a widespread problem. How widespread? Well, that depends on who you listen to. Okay, cracking down. Whatever the extent of the fraud, he's confident that it is becoming more difficult to get away with. Okay, we've seen this in our industry with property clubs, offering cashbacks and all number of things and ways to get around it. It's very hard to get around it now. The grey has become very black. The FSA took over mortgage regulation in October 2004. 2 mortgage brokers were banned for fraud in 2006. 6 were kicked out last year, and 17 already this year. Okay, so they are clamping right down on it. Okay, so you've got to watch that. In particular, they're targeting people giving false incomes, and certainly now, if you're overstating your income, so you get a higher mortgage, it's a lot harder to get away with. But also, too, you could be presenting yourself or putting yourself up for a bit of a problem. All right, house price fall, but pace eases. Okay, so prices are still falling, but what they're saying nationwide is saying that actually the rate of fall has eased. Okay, so slump in November with prices falling just 0.4%. Okay, and this is, I think, we're starting to see. I think we're actually starting to see the bottoming out. I'm not going to say the bottom, but certainly the bottoming out of house prices. I don't think they're going to drop too much more. I mean, look, they may go another 5%. I don't think we're going to see drastic drops, partially because if you look, the Bank of England are taking major steps by dropping interest rates through monetary policy. The government is talking all fiscal policy and the borrowings that they're looking, and they're trying to get through, tax cuts, all of those sort of things. So with fiscal and monetary policy, and they're being quite aggressive about it, normally that will turn around and arrest the falls and bring the market back into equilibrium and possibly solid, steady growth. Okay. Right. So finally, credit reference agency. So this is Martin Lewis's money saving expert. Great website for all sorts of things. A huge amount of information with it. But if you have a look, it's moneysavingexpert.com/cards/credit-reference. Okay. If you have a look at here, you can see, for instance, if you apply for American Express, they use Experian. Okay, so you can check, and you should be getting your Equifax, Experian, and Call Credit. They're the 3 major ones that the banks use and lenders use. So you want to get a hold of all 3 of those. So don't just rely on doing Equifax and think everything's fine. You might have a problem with your Equifax or Experian or Call Credit. Okay, so you can see Bank of Scotland, they're using all 3. All right, Cambridge Building Society, if you apply for them, well, they're going to be using Equifax. Okay, so using this page, you can see once you've got your credit file, which credit file looks the best or has the best scoring, okay, based on the data that's being provided to them, and then you can apply for the appropriate credit. All right, so that can help you out, and it's got a whole number of people there. Okay, excellent. Well, that's it for this week, and I want to thank you all for listening in again, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week. See ya.